he was rehearsing the clarinets and so on and so forth, and we were not quite paying attention, and all of a sudden we hear bang, 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 and he's got his stick, he's pounding it on his stand, and pieces are going all over, and we're ducking for cover. And he glares at us and he says, "I thought you were the best of the best of the best. Can't you follow a simple beat? I'm conducting in 7. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Charlie Irwin, well, I'll show you, our solo cornetist, looked around in the section and he says, "Make it happen." Somehow we did.
Oh, that's funny. With Memorial Day upon us, thought it would be a good time for us to talk about Memorial Day and maybe what it's like to be a musician in the military. I was, and my good friend Dick Schaffer is here with me today, and he was as well. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to mention taps. Why do we play taps every Memorial Day? It's a very important part of the celebration. Where to come from? Why do we do it? We've known each other for many years.
We have.
We both are trumpet players. I'm not anymore, but he still is and has played for a long time. We don't have to say how long. That's okay.
No, that's good.
Dick has some serious credentials that I just want to mention. He graduated from Eastman. Then he passed the audition and he got into the Marine Band in the early 60s, and they're called the President's Own. So he would be playing in Washington with this set of really good musicians. At least in my opinion, I thought they were really good musicians. And he was a cornet trumpet player, and also with the White House Orchestra. And that was from 1963 to 67. After that, when he got out of the Marines, he looked for another low-pressure gig. And so he signed up and passed the audition for the Houston Symphony. And you were with them for what, 34 years. Yeah. After that, he came up north, and that's when we met. And for a number of years now, he has been an adjunct professor of trumpet at Onondaga Community College. We've performed together in lots of shows and in worship services as well. I always felt this particular level of camaraderie because we were both military musicians. Now, where did the name Bear come from?
Okay.
That wasn't the military, right?
That was not from the military. When I was in the Houston Symphony, we did a lot of what we call run-out concerts. So we do a morning student concert and we do an afternoon family concert. So the management would put us up, quote, put us up, end quote, in a motel. And what they would do is they'd buy us a day room. So basically we would sit there or sit in the lobby and wait until the afternoon bus to the afternoon concert. Bored to tears. So we're sitting there one time, and a young man dressed in some kind of suit with a pillbox hat comes walking through saying, "Telephone call for Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear, telephone call." And I stood up behind him, 6'4" of me, and I went like this. He turned around and he out of the room. And so my roommate said, "That's your name, Mr. Bear."
Okay, good to know the background on that. And it will remind me, never sit in front of you.
Absolutely.
So, on this YouTube channel that Case Tunes does, we talk about next step musicianship a lot. The premise being that no matter where you are as a musician, a novice just starting, or if you're really established and really good at what you do, maybe you're a professional, there's always a next step to take. There's always another way you can develop, another gig you can get involved with. Maybe it's going to be teaching, maybe it's going to be composing or arranging or producing or recording somewhere.
That's why music is so great.
It is.
It has all kinds of opportunities for everybody.
Absolutely it does. So I'm just wondering if there were any like watershed moments in your life, in your career, when you went from one thing to another and you were thinking, what's my next step going to be?
Yeah. Well, most of the time, looking back on my musical life and where I played, it was just a matter of what's next. Not reaching particularly, but I felt that music itself gave me a direction. And so when I graduated from Eastman, I was hoping to play in an orchestra, but didn't have the tools quite yet. So somebody said, "Well, why don't you audition for the Marine Band?" And so I thought, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a shot." And so I went down there and walked into the barracks with my horn, and I said, "I'm here for the audition." And there was a captain sitting there with a music stand full of music. And he said, "All right, Mr. Schaffer," he said, "I'm Captain Harpham. Let's have you play something for us." So he opened the folder, and it's thick with music. The first thing that came up was the last movement of Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony with solo cornet part, and that goes.
It sounds just like that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I went through that, and he kind of sat back and so he turned the next page. Basically, he kept turning pages for me for about 35 minutes, and he said, "Okay, Mr. Schaffer, thank you very much. We'll let you know."
Oh.
And so he dismissed me, and I went back to Eastman. And they said I got the job. So that's how I came into the Marine Band. After the Marine Band, I was looking to be an orchestral musician because I had taken my master's degree there at Catholic University during my service stint. And I was ready. I had tools. Mm-hmm. So I started auditioning, and I auditioned for the Houston Symphony and got it. So
now, when you were a military trumpeter, then I'm sure you had to play your share of taps. And
yes.
Now we were talking about this earlier, and we both had to do some research on where taps actually came from, because turns out it originated back with the Civil War with a General Butterfield and his bugler. And now I wasn't around then. I don't know about you. I wasn't around back then.
No,
not quite.
Not quite.
And so this bugle call at first. The original bugle call was called Extinguished Lights, I think, or maybe it was
right.
Tattoo. I get a little confused on which was which. But then General Butterfield's bugler kind of redid things, and Butterfield started using it unofficially at the end of the day, and other generals heard it, and they kind of adopted it. This was off the books, and yet it became really popular. Didn't
Butterfield take the last 5-6 measures of another tune?
Tattoo,
Tattoo.
I think it was the last 5.5 measures.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And kind of transformed it. So General Butterfield started using taps at the end of every day, he would have his bugler play this taps. And it came to be known as Butterfield's Lullaby. And the other generals that would be within earshot, which was quite a ways, and they adopted it until most of the units were playing taps at the end of the day. It became a kind of an unofficial bugle call at the time. As I understand it, back in 2012, Congress actually recognized taps as the national song of remembrance. So kind of a far cry from Butterfield's Lullaby. So you played taps along with the President's Own.
Right.
And you had some interesting experiences.
Well, every Friday night at the Marine Barracks 8th and I Street Southeast, there was a parade, and people were invited to this. They had bleachers set up and everything, and it was pretty impressive. Here's a picture of the Marine Band, Marine Barracks. We're in pass and review, and at the end of that time, as we passed the review, one of our buglers, one of our trumpet players, would drop off and go through the barracks and wind up at the end of the parade deck. And at the end of the parade, one of the cornet players in the Marine Band would play standing in formation taps. And when he was done, a blue spotlight would hit the other trumpet player at the end of the parade ground, and he would play echo taps. Mm-hmm. And so that was pretty impressive. And as he ended taps, the light would slowly get extinguished. Nice. That was the end of the parade.
Very good.
So
very good.
Now, another taps incident, which I'm sure many people who see this might remember, especially the older ones of us. In the Marine Band, we played JFK's funeral. And here's a picture of us marching to Arlington. Right. And I don't know how many people remember this, but taps was played at JFK's gravesite. However, taps was played by an Army bugler, and he missed a note.
No.
Da da dee, da da dee, da da dee, da da dee, da da blia blia blia. And he made the G, which is a top note. Well, shortly thereafterwards, he was a master sergeant. He was busted down to corporal.
Oh no!
Because now people do not know that story, because that occurred at around 4:45 in the evening on November 22nd, and I think it was 63. And people don't realize that he had been tasked since 8:30 in the morning to be standing at the gravesite at parade rest with his trumpet.
That's a long time.
He was tasked not to move, and the first time he moved was when he popped to attention and put the horn up and put it on his lips. And it was cold that day. Mm-hmm. Not many people knew that.
And I'm thinking that the people who told him to do that probably weren't musicians.
Well, you don't. We don't know about that, because the Pershing Zone was the spit and polish band of the Army. Yeah. So who knows where that came from?
Who knows? I mean, I remember playing taps in cold conditions, and holy cow, it's not easy.
Until you discover lucite rims for your mouthpieces.
Oh, all right. I didn't get those.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. That saves us.
Okay.
It does.
So, as part of the White House Orchestra, then you would occasionally be tasked with playing shows.
We were very busy during the Kennedy administration, not so much during Johnson. But Kennedy was very, of course, the Kennedys were very artsy, and we were up there a lot. We used to play as an orchestra. There were maybe 20, 25 of us, right inside that door to the right. And what we would do is we play show music, My Fair Lady. And so as the guests came in, they would come up and they'd turn left and they'd go into the state dining room, which is right off to the right there. Okay. And while they were dining, we'd send a couple of three of our violinists in there strolling strings, and those of us who were going to play the show. Let me back up. We would be on site at 8:30. We'd have a rehearsal at 9 with one act of a Broadway show that they brought down, like Hello Dolly with Carol Channing. and we would rehearse with the stars, one of the acts, and then we'd have lunch in the White House police room, talk with the White House cops and the Secret Service guys and so on and so forth. We would change uniforms to the White House uniform for the evening show and go up and we'd play inside. We'd play the show tunes, and then those of us who were playing the show would move over to the East Room, which they had set up with a stage and with the chairs and everything. We'd set up outside that room. Then the guests would, after dinner, they'd go to the East Room and have a seat, and we'd do the show. And the orchestra, the show orchestra, we'd be right outside the door. After the show was over, we'd move inside, and we'd have a dance. We'd be the dance band for them, and we would play until they said stop, which was usually around 2:30 in the morning.
It's a long day.
Yeah, I know that that we appreciated Kennedy because he was always very nice to us. He came up. He came up one time to the conductor, and he said, "Good evening, Captain Hopham." "Well, good evening, sir." He said, "Can we play something for you?" "Yes, I need you to play some very up-tempo music tonight. We have a very dull crowd here." He said, "Now I've made a schedule for you with to pass. I know you've been here since early this morning. I made a schedule for you to go through the steam table and have something to eat and something to drink, and come back and finish out the evening with us." "Thank you, sir, very much." He was always very kind. We would play till they said stop at 2:30 in the morning, and occasionally there'd be a glitch. One time we're playing along, and it's about maybe 1:30. President and his wife had gone to bed at 11:30 or 12. People were still dancing. Congressman Ayers from Ohio comes up to the band, drunk as 700 steam fitters, and he grabs the trombone out from our trombonist and turns around to the crowd and goes, "Beer! Beer! Go home! Everybody go home, the band is tired." No, Congressman, we're supposed to stay to go home." And everybody went home.
Oh no. Oh.
So
I wonder if he heard from Kennedy later about that.
I don't think so. I think everybody was done. It's pretty tiring.
So in your career, how many times do you suppose you played taps?
I don't know, maybe 100, 120 times.
Yeah.
And I always find it very difficult to play because I remember the movie From Here to Eternity, when Prue was playing taps for Maggio, Frank Sinatra. And the tears were running down his face as he did so, And I always remember that, and it always makes it a little harder for me to play taps because of that, because it's so meaningful, and you play it for the person that you're playing it for.
Yes.
You whether you knew the person or not, you tag the way you're playing it to the person who's passed, honoring them.
And that's why we play it after
Absolutely.
Memorial Day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're going to hear a demonstration of taps. And we do this in honor of all those who served and are no longer with us. And this is just our way of honoring you. So, thanks for joining us.